Hello everyone, I am Sheena and I'm an enrollment specialist here with Our Daily Bread. And today we're going to go over enrollments and how to make sure that those are completely and correctly filled out to ensure that your claims every month are fully maximized. It is important to remember that every child in your center will need to have an enrollment form as well as an income eligibility form completed in order to be able to claim them and receive reimbursement. It is also important to remember that these will renew each year. So the first thing you want to do on the enrollment form is you want to make sure that the name of the child care center and the director's name is at the top. This is really, really important for those centers that have sister sites. When you have multiple centers, we don't want to accidentally enroll a child in the wrong center. So make sure that the correct center name is listed at the top. The next thing we're going to do is make sure that the participant's name is here. So in this case, we'll say this one is going to be John Doe. So John Doe, and we'll just throw an S there for a middle initial. We want to make sure that John's date of birth is on here as well. We will give John a date of birth of 7/1/23. The enrollment date, this is going to be the date that the child started. So let's say the child started today, so 6/19/25. If the child has special needs, it's important to check that box right there. The next thing is we want to make sure that each day that the child attends is circled. This is going to ensure that you are receiving reimbursement for each day that the child is there. So we're going to circle Monday if the child's there every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's also, the next step is important to remember to list the hours that the child is there. This can vary, we know that, so they can put multiple times here if they need to. But let's say that John is in the center from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. But let's say that there are some days that John might be there from 6 a.m. to 3, and that's totally fine. All right, the next step is to make sure that each of the meals that the child will be attending is circled. So if John's going to be there for breakfast, lunch, and PM snack, we want to make sure that all three of those are circled. The next step is make sure that the parent puts their name here. So let's see. All right. Next step, make sure the parent's phone number is here. We'll just throw a phone number here. The important thing is to make sure that the parent is signing and dating the bottom of this page. If this is not signed and dated, we cannot activate this enrollment. So we're going to make sure that mom or dad signs there. And the date, this is the most important thing. So if John started on 6/19, but the parents do not date this till 6/25, we cannot activate that child until 6/25, and you are not able to claim them until that day. So it's important to make sure that the parent is putting the correct date that the child starts so that you are able to claim that child for every single day that he was there. This is only going to apply for new enrollments. If it is a renewal, then this date can be whatever day that the parent signed it because the child has already been enrolled as of this date up here. So if it's a new enrollment, make sure that they are dating this for the day that the child started. The next page they're going to fill out is the income eligibility form. This is what we're going to use to deem the child, whether they are free, reduced, or paid reimbursement rate. In step 1, we're going to list not only the child that they are completing the enrollment for, but also any other child that they have in that center. So we're going to put John's name there. If they are a foster child, migrant, runaway, homeless, or Head Start, they can mark this box. If they haven't, let's say John has a sibling there as well. So we will put John's sibling there. All right. Then it will say that none of these apply to them. If these were checked, then they do not have to complete step 3. They can go straight down to step 4 and sign. But because none of these are marked, we're going to move on to step 2. So step 2 is asking for SNAP or Families First case number. This is not your certificate number. This is not the child care certificate. This is going to be for SNAP or Families First. So if a family receives SNAP benefits, that case number is usually 9 to 10 digits long, and they're going to list that number here. If they receive Families First, they're going to list that Families First case number here. They're also going to attach a copy of that Families First child care certificate, and then they're going to move on down here to step 4. They will not have to complete step 3. But in this case, because John doesn't have a case number, we're going to move on down to step 3. The first part of step 3 is A. This is for child income. In some situations, children do receive income, whether it be Social Security benefits, something like that. If they do, then the child's income, not the parent's income and not the total household income, but the child's income will go right here. The next step is all household members will need to be listed here, as well as income and pay frequency. So we will put John's mom here, and we will say she gets $1,000 every 2 weeks. And then if there are any other household members, we will put them here as well. We'll just put Dad here, and we'll say Dad gets $2,000 a month. You do not have to put John and his sibling because they are already listed in step 1, so they do not have to be here. We're going to total up how many household members there are. 1, 2, 3, 4. That will go in this box right here. Then they're going to come directly over here, and they're going to put the last 4 of the parent social that is signing this form. So the last 4 of that social will go right there. You're going to double check and make sure everything in this spot is filled out correctly. If it is, then they can go ahead and move on down here. They're going to sign and date it. This is very, very important, because if they do not sign and date this, we cannot complete this enrollment. It'll be paid incomplete, and the child will automatically be deemed as a paid reimbursement rate. So we're going to make sure that that is signed and dated. We're going to go down here, put the address. And then a phone number. And that income eligibility form is completely filled out. Now, if they do not put the child's name up here, we cannot complete that enrollment. That is an incomplete, and it will most likely come back to you to have the parent fill that in. If any of the household members or income is missing, that's going to be an incomplete, and that's going to have to come back to you to have the parents finish. If the social is missing, that can deem the child as incomplete as well, and will also have to come back to you. Any enrollments that are deemed as incomplete are automatically going to be deemed at the lowest reimbursement rate, even if the child would have qualified for free or reduced. Also, the signature and date, as I said, if they are not there, we are not able to complete that enrollment and deem the child properly. They're going to be deemed as a paid. So if you get any enrollments back from your enrollment specialist that need to be corrected, it's important to make sure that you get those fixed so that we can make sure that your claim is completely maximized. This last page is completely optional. This is the race and ethnicity. The parents do not need to complete that if they do not want to. It is completely up to them. This part at the bottom is for Our Daily Bread to complete. So the parents will not need to fill out below this line. And again, this is just for Tennessee centers. So if you have a parent that refuses to provide any of this information, and that does happen sometimes, parents don't want to give income, they don't want to give the last 4 of their social, that is perfectly fine. We do not require the parents to do that. However, if they choose not to provide that information, they will still need to put the child's name in step 1. They will need to go right here to step 3, and they will need to write parent refusal somewhere in this area, and they will still need to sign and date it. If they do not sign and date it, it will still be incomplete, even if it says parent refusal. So they must sign and date this part right here. If the parent does refuse, that, just like with an incomplete, it will be deemed at the lowest reimbursement rate. So that child will be deemed as paid. Infant addendums. It is important to make sure that infant addendums are completed for each child under the age of 12 months, As a reminder, every parent is only allowed to contribute one component for each of the infant's meals. So if the parent is providing that infant formula or that breast milk, the center will need to provide all additional food for the infant. On that infant addendum form, the parents will need to mark one option only. If they are providing formula, the center is providing the food. That third option on that form that says parent will provide infant formula or breast milk and center will provide all additional food is the only option that will need to be marked. So for our Tennessee homes, their enrollment page is only 1 page long. So they don't have an income eligibility form like with the centers. So for the homes, you will put the provider name and address here. So that will be the name of the person who owns the daycare and their address. And then you will make sure that the child's name is listed here. So we'll go with John Doe again. And make sure that date of birth is here. And then we'll make sure that that address is listed. Again, that enrollment date that the child first started. So we'll say that is today, 6/19/25. The child is male. This is where you will mark special needs or special diet if the child has any special diet restrictions, allergies, if they have any kind of GI issues that prevent them from having certain foods, that will need to go here. Then you will mark the ethnicity and the race. The most important thing here is the relationship to provider, not the relationship to the parent. So this is going to be if that child is related to the daycare home provider. So if they are related, then you will put related, non-resident, or own child or foster child. There's also the helper's child. If they are not related to the provider at all, you'll mark that not provided spot. One of the differences with homes compared to centers is you do not have your own individual infant addendums. It is actually on the form. So if the child is under 12 months old, you will need to mark the appropriate options here. So formula options, parent supplies breast milk or formula, parent accepts provider supplied formula. So if the parent's providing that formula, they're going to check that box. Food options, parent supplies additional food and refuses provider supplied food, or provider supplies additional foods when developmentally appropriate. Again, if the parent is providing everything, you are not able to claim that child for reimbursement. So it is important to remember that the parent is only supplying one component of that infant's meal. So in this situation, we will say that the provider is going to supply all the additional food. So they will mark that option. The name of the parent formula, we will just they'll put the name of the formula there. And then the name of the provider formula, if the center is or the home is providing the formula, they will put that right there. So parent information will go in this spot right here. And the address, obviously, we'll put that here. And then the home phone number. And an email will go here if the parent wants to provide their email there. We also want to make sure that each of the days that the child is anticipated to be present is marked. So we'll say that John is here every day of the week. I anticipate the meals my child will participate will be. So you'll mark all the meals that the child will be present for. Drop-off times and pickup times. So this is just like with the centers. You're going to put your drop-off time, your estimated pickup time. If that time varies, on the center side, you are able to put multiple times there. On the homes, you'll just mark that times vary. If their days vary, they will need to mark the days vary. Some weeks they may be there all 5 days. Some days they may only be there 2 or 3 days. So they will mark that days varied. If the child is school age, the school information must be completed. So we will say this child is not in school. He's not of school age, so we won't mark any of these things. But if this child was, we would mark school age. We would put the name of the school here, the school phone number, and the days that they attend that school. We'll also put the time that they depart from the home to the school. So if they come to the daycare home before they go to school, and we say they leave at 7:15 to go to school, and then they return from school at 3 o'clock. The last thing on these is to make sure, again, just like with centers, that the parents are signing and dating the bottom of these forms. If these are not signed and dated, we cannot activate this enrollment. So the parent will sign and date. Again, just like with centers, that is the activation date. So if the child started on 6/19/2025, that's the date that needs to be listed here in order to be able to receive reimbursement for the meals for all the days that the child attended. It is best practice to remember that each of these enrollments will need to be submitted to your enrollment specialist by the 27th of each month. After the 27th, we are not able to guarantee that those enrollments will be entered in enough time for you to claim that child come claim submission on the 1st. It is also important to remember that these will renew every single year. So annually, you will get each month your renewals for that month. You may get them via mail, you may get them via email, but your enrollment specialist will get those to you. Those will need to be completed again and submitted by the 27th of every month before the child's expiration date, because once the child expires, that's when you risk disallowances and things like that on your claim. So we want to avoid that and get these in prior to expiration dates. And if you have any questions at all, you can always reach out to any of your specialists. They are always available to help and assist you. Again, my name is Sheena, and I hope you found this video very helpful. Have a great day.